If you're moving to Abbotsford, BC, you're going to want your kids to have the best education possible. So in this video, I'm going to be going over my 5 top schools in Abbotsford, BC. I'm only going to be covering high schools. I'm not going to cover elementary or middle schools, but regardless, this is going to be important because depending on what area you live in, you're kind of in zones for schools. So certain elementary schools feed into middle schools, and that middle school feeds into a high school. So the high school is really important. You should pick on what high school you want to go to first and then work your way backwards. I'm not going to be covering private schools in this video either. All the private schools have a religious component around them, so I'm going to keep that out of this video, but I will make a separate video all about private schools. How high schools work in Abbotsford is depending on the area you live in, you're almost forced, you're kind of in a boundary, you're forced to go to a specific school unless there's specific programs your child is in. You can cross boundaries for things like that. But it's important picking where you're going to move to so you get into the school you want to be in. The other thing I'm not going to do in this video is rank every school. So I'm not going to go from top to bottom or bottom to top. I'm going to give you my opinions and talk about academics, talk about what the culture is like, and talk about sports. And then you'll be able to decide for yourself where you want your kids to go and where you want your, what's best for your family. At the end of the day, every school is going to be different, has unique programs. I'll give you my opinion on what schools I think are the best, where I would have my kids, but you're going to make that decision for yourself. And you're probably wondering, Dale, why should we listen to you about what schools are best in Abbotsford? I currently teach in the district. I've taught in the district since 2017. I've TOC'd, so I've been a substitute in the district. I've been around all the high schools. I've worked in all the high schools, and I have my opinions, and not just my opinions, but I've seen what's available at different schools, what programs they have, what the sports are like, what the culture is all like. So you're going to get my in-depth knowledge on all of this. The first school I taught in Abbotsford is also the first school I'm going to cover, which is Hansen Secondary. Hansen Secondary is on the west side of Abbotsford. It's one of the smaller schools population-wise. I think it has the least amount of students compared to all the other high schools in Abbotsford. The first thing I want to cover is school culture at Hansen Secondary. So overall, generally, the students are very thoughtful. They're very respectful. The population there is majority South Asian descent. So when I was teaching classes, most kids were looking like me. There's people from South India. There's a lot of people from different parts of Asia, different parts of India. There's a lot of people who immigrated from Africa who go there. Caucasian students, there definitely isn't as many compared to other schools in Abbotsford. So the first thing I want to talk about with Hansen Secondary is the school culture. Majority of the students there are of South Asian descent. So there isn't as many Caucasian students there. And if that's something that's going to bother you, then that's not a place for you. It's not where you want to go. Students there are still generally respectful. The vibe there is it's very good. The teachers there are absolutely amazing. I wouldn't have an issue going back to work there. I think it's a great environment for students, for teachers, for anybody that's in that building. Academics wise, again, they're one of the smaller schools, so they don't always have the greatest amount of course offerings. But what I do love about Hansen Secondary is they have a school of science and a school of business. So if your child is going to go into a healthcare field, or if they're going to go into business, specifically in university as well, this is really going to help them out. It's going to give them a head start. With the School of Science and the School of Business, you have to apply for it, so not everybody gets in. But once you're in grade 11, and you kind of work with the same cohort of kids. So in grade 11, one semester you do all of your courses, all your academic courses. And in the second semester, you're doing your business courses all with your cohort, same group kids all day long. And then for the last 6 weeks of school, you're actually doing an internship. So if it's science related, or healthcare related, you might be doing an internship with people at physio offices or certain different offices, certain things to do with science. I would say the internships for science aren't as good because it's hard to get more hands-on experience in that field. What it was really good for was my business students. So a lot of my business students were I had people in banks and accounting offices. I had people working with WFG, if you know what WFG is, financial people. So people working with realtors. So the people my students, not people, were interns basically with local businesses, and they gained a lot of business experience, and that was really good hands-on experience for them. So I think for that reason, that program is absolutely amazing. That's only in grade 11. In grade 12, same thing. First half of the year, you're taking all your courses. Second half, you're doing your business courses. But then starting in May, and I can't fully, because I never taught the grade 12s, I can't fully remember the length of the program, but I believe it starts in May, and I think it's like you do a 6-week university course. They have like office hours where they can meet with the teacher, they work with the teacher and get that extra hand. So you get experience to university, but you get, your teacher in high school is still holding your hand, trying to get you through, and it's really beneficial. So I like Rick Hansen for that reason specifically. The next thing I'm going to cover is the sports and extracurricular activities at Rick Hansen Secondary. I think there is teachers there who are trying to offer as many things as they can. It's a smaller school, so you don't always get as many programs. Their sports are not always the greatest. They're lacking a lot of kids there. They want to play basketball, and that's kind of like the main thing. They don't have much else going on for sports. So if you're looking for, your kids is into sports and extracurriculars, might not be the place to choose. The next school I want to talk about is Abbotsford Senior Secondary. It's located right in the heart of Abbotsford. It's the oldest school in Abbotsford, so it's got a very rich history. It used to be because it was so big, it was the only school in Abbotsford. It was dominant in sports. It carried a bit more prestige. I would say now it doesn't have that anymore. I have a lot of friends who actually work at Abbey Senior Secondary, and they're all great people. They're all great teachers. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't have an issue sending my kids there. A lot of my nieces and nephews, and multiple of them, are going to Abbey Senior Secondary right now, and they're having a great time. And a lot of them don't even have my friends as their teachers, and they're still loving all their teachers. So I think it's a great place to be for students. It's quite big, and it's very diverse. So at Abbey Senior, culture-wise, so let's dive into culture, there's a wide variety it's very diverse. So you're going to get refugees there. You're going to get people who are living in multi-million-dollar homes there. You're going to get people who have a terrible family life at home. Like I coached there for a little bit. This was at the middle school, and kids have a rough time there, right? Like parents who are on drugs and just doing bad things aren't really taking care of them. So kids with terrible home lives, kids with amazing home lives, there's just a wide spectrum and wide variety of students. So lots of diversity. You get exposed to a lot of different things while you're at Abbey Senior. Now let's talk academics. I wouldn't say Abbey Senior is one of the better schools when it comes to education, but the one thing they do have going for them, well, they have a couple different programs, but the main thing they do have going for them is they have an IB program, which is an international baccalaureate. I don't even know how to properly say it. Basically, it's like an intense program. Again, you have to apply for it. Like for Rick Hansen, you have that program you apply for IB, and you're taking almost like university prep courses. Nothing transfers to university, but the courses you take are definitely more intense. You're taking more intense courses. You're working with a cohort who all wants, like, it's smartest kids basically in the school are all going to be working together at that course. There's a higher chance of you getting into top universities if you've done IB in high school. Other than IB, Abbey Senior also has a hairdressing program, which I think is phenomenal because, again, I'm a teacher, but I don't think school, being in that classroom setting, is for everybody. So just why I like Rick Hansen, because kids are going on internships, they're actually going to university, they're trying all these different things. Here, like if you want to be a hairdresser, instead of sitting in class, go and get that hands-on experience. They also have a chef program. So classroom setting, not for everyone, but people may thrive when they get into that chef program. They're doing what they love. They love to eat, whatever it may be. The last thing I want to cover about Abbey is their sports. So I want to first say that they do have a soccer academy. So if you want to join soccer academy, you can join from anywhere in the district and go to Abbey Senior. In the timetable, so during school, you're going to be, I don't fully know how it works. I did substitute for them once, but basically kids are doing soccer things, training. Okay, now that we've covered the academy, what about all the other sports that they have? So Abbey does have a good offering of sports. They have football, they have basketball, they have rugby, volleyball. I don't know how popular volleyball would be there, especially on the boys' side. They do have a lot of offerings, so they offer most of the sports, except their teams aren't always doing that great. They're good in basketball, I would say, consistently. They're like higher up, doing pretty well, making provincials. For basketball, they're not like the top 10 always, but they're usually doing pretty good. They do decent in rugby. Football, they haven't been doing so great, but they've had some good years. So again, the type of students that are there kids who may not be getting food at lunch, and they're going and playing these sports, and the fact that they're offering all these sports to the kids, they're doing a really good job there. They're doing the best that they can. And I think, again, if you want to go for the sports, maybe not the place to go. If you want to go to Abbey and you're going to choose to live in that area, go for the IB. I think that's the reason you would want to go to Abbey Senior. The third school I want to cover is Moet Secondary. Moet is the largest school in Abbotsford, so it's around 1,500 kids. Depending on where you're coming from, that might be normal, but in Abbotsford, that's a big school. And if we go into talking about culture, because it's such a big school, sometimes it can feel like you're getting lost. But the teachers and the staff do a pretty good job there of getting kids together, creating a good culture. I just think it's so big, and there is a diverse student population. It's a little bit cliquey, not the best or the most community feeling at that school. Students, if they're going to go there for some type of academic, it's because it's a French immersion school. It's the only French immersion high school in Abbotsford, and for that reason, people all over the district are going there. So some kids want to do French immersion, some parents want kids doing French immersion, so that's the place you're going to want to go, is WJ Moet. If you're going to go in French immersion, again, there's no boundaries, so you can be all over Abbotsford and still be able to go to French immersion. They do offer a lot of tech courses, fine arts courses. They have, because of their student population not being the most academic, they have a lot of offerings for them in other ways. And when it comes to sports and extracurricular activities, they've got a lot going on. Big school, so a lot of things to offer. Their sports are usually pretty good. They have a history of doing very well back in the day in basketball, football, all these sports, rugby even. And in recent times, they kind of fell off, and especially during COVID, they really took a hit. But this year, their football program is starting to gain ground again. They've got people in the right places, the right teachers in the right places, and I think that football program will continue to thrive moving forward. Their basketball programs are okay. They do pretty good. Basketball is one of the bigger sports, I would say, in Abbotsford. For girls, they've got volleyball going on, which is pretty decent. Basketball, they're not bad as well. And rugby, both teams, boys and girls, do pretty good. The next school I want to talk to is Bateman Secondary. This is the school I personally went to. So I've got a bit of a bias towards this school. Even with that bias, though, I think it is one of the better high schools in Abbotsford, if not the best. It really depends on, again, what you're going for, what your kids want to get out of school, or what you want your kids to get out of school. But I think Bateman overall does quite a good job. The school sits in East Abbotsford. It's in a very quiet, family-friendly community. And so if we're talking about school culture, I would say it's a very tight-knit community type of feeling at Bateman Secondary. People generally get along really well. Kids are generally quite good. There isn't as much diversity, I would say, as all the other schools. There's more and more. Like when I went to Bateman, I graduated in 2010. And in 2010, there weren't many, I'm Punjabi, there weren't many other Punjabi students at that school. There was a couple in my grade, couple in every grade. Now there's more. There's a lot of Korean students there, a lot of other Asian students. So it's becoming more diverse, but it's still majority Caucasian students. And when we talk about academics, students here tend to do very well in academics. They're quite strong. It's one of the higher rated schools when it comes to academics. The last time the schools had provincial exams and they went over different results was 2019, so pre-COVID, and at the time in Abbotsford, Bateman ranked highest in academics. I don't think it's the case anymore, and I will talk about that when we talk about Yale, but still very strong in academics, public school-wise, it's up there. Now, where Bateman really excels is their sports and extracurricular activities. They've got a lot of different things for tech stuff. They've got a lot of different extracurricular activities when it comes to band, drumline, things of that sort. But their sports are phenomenal. Well, let me take that back. Their sports are phenomenal depending on what sport it is. So football, rugby, consistently year after year, they're doing good. Their football and rugby teams are strong. When it comes to basketball, the girls do okay. The boys at Bateman for basketball, not always the strongest. So a lot of the boys and girls, they're usually focused on rugby. Boys focusing on football as well. They have like cheerleading, but basketball usually takes ahead. Boys volleyball, like non-existent. They don't really do soccer for boys. Girls soccer, they might have a team, but they also have hockey now. So that's another thing they've got going. They've got hockey, which they did well in this year. They've got hockey for girls as well. And they've also got a golf academy. So that's another one where you can leave your boundaries to join that golf academy. Golf in almost every day, and I don't fully know how that program runs, or it might be once, a part of your semester, but there is also a golf season. So kids go to golf academy, they also have their golf season. But if your kids are into like contact sports, especially, hockey, football, rugby, things like that, they're really going to thrive here. They're going to have a really good time. And the fifth and final school I want to talk about is Yale Secondary. Yale Secondary is also located in East Abbotsford. It's in a bit more of a busier area than Robert Bateman is, but it's still a nice little community. There's more amenities available. Where you're at Bateman, you kind of have to walk around. And I forgot to mention that when you're at Robert Bateman, you have to like walk from school, maybe like 20 minutes to get to the closest like gas station, or if you want something to eat. It's not available right by the school. It's all houses, it's all families around Robert Bateman Secondary. When you get to Yale, it's right beside a rec center. There's different places, there's different gyms there, there's bars, there's places you can get food, there's gas stations. There's more amenities available. When it comes to school culture, I would say Yale Secondary is probably up there right at the top for all schools. They're very cohesive. They've got teachers in place. So my friends are working there, and my friends are in place to really lead that school, lead the students to create a really good environment. So they do a lot of events, a lot of things that's going on in that school. The teachers are facilitating that. I think when it comes to school culture, definitely the place to be. When it comes to academics, this is what I was talking about earlier with Bateman. It used to be on the top. There hasn't been anything updated, but in recent times since COVID, they've been getting the most academic scholarships. So I really think when the new numbers, the stats come out, whenever they do, I think Yale Secondary will have surpassed Abbotsford, and I think they're the strongest public school academically in Abbotsford. So they don't have any fancy programs like IB, but they do have AP courses so you can take, which are like university prep courses. So you can take courses and like math, sciences, socials, all that kind of good stuff. You can take those type of prep courses. They're a bit more difficult than your normal high school courses, but they prep you for university. They get you ready for that next level. So Yale Secondary has a good school culture. They're good at academics. And when it comes to sports and extracurriculars, they also do very well. They've got softball academy, baseball academy, hockey academy, which has produced people who are now in the NHL. They do very well in basketball, boys and girls. They do well in girls volleyball most of the time. And boys volleyball, some years they have really good years, some years they don't. Boys rugby, they're right now decent. They've had good years. Their girls rugby is absolutely phenomenal. So their sports, they're kick-ass basically. So they kind of have the trifecta. They're doing everything right. And as much as it pains me, because I'm from Robert Bateman, I'm a Bateman boy at heart, Yale right now is doing really well in all three categories. And if you're going to send your kid, and again, it depends on what they want to go for. If they want to play rugby, football, hockey, and not be in that academy, Bateman is a really good place to be. But if you're looking to play like basketball or volleyball, they're consistently good at those two sports. Girls rugby, they consistently do well. Or if you want to join the academies, then Yale would be the place to be, in my opinion. That's how I would kind of decide. So I can't really say one's better than the other, but I think Yale, because it's got a trifecta of all three things it's doing well, I would personally rate it number one. So that covers the 5 best schools in Abbotsford, BC. Each is unique in its own way. If you want to go to Hansen Secondary, their business and science program is a good place to go to. If you're French immersion or you want to be going into some type of French, WJ Moet is the place you want to be. If you want to be in an IB program or hairdressing program or some type of foods program, trades program, Abby Senior is going to be the place to be. If you're looking to play more contact sports, or your kids are really into sports, they want more of a tight-knit community, then Robert Bateman. And Yale is overall, if you just want a place to put your kid, you're not 100% sure, or if they're really into like basketball, academics, it doesn't really matter what they're into, there's going to be something for them to do there. So you can make that decision now of where you want to put your kids. I'm still a Bateman boy. I always say Robert Bateman all the way. Send your kids there. It's a great place to be. I grew up there. I loved it, and I would recommend anybody go there, but I've given you other options. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking to make a move to Abbotsford, you have any questions, you need some answers, head to this link, liveinabbotsford.ca, fill out the form, and I will reach out to you.